Hi, this is Sandra, and welcome to Minutes of Torah. Last year, during this week's Torah portion, I got a random text message from my father. And that text message turned into a conversation. And in this conversation, he told me a story about my great-grandfather. My dad said that my great-grandfather's motto equated to dare to be different. My dad told me that reminded him a lot of his grandfather. So that's what I want to talk about today. Dare to be different and dare to dream. In this week's Torah portion of Vayeishev, Joseph is described by our great sage Rashi as someone who dressed his hair and touched up his lips so that he should appear good looking. So even Rashi thought that Joseph was different. And Joseph was someone who dared to be different. And not only that, but our bad boy Joseph dared to dream, but his dreams got him into trouble. In this week's Torah portion, it is clear that Jacob favors Joseph, and this angers Joseph's brothers. And Joseph has a dream where he predicts reigning over his brothers, and this pisses them off. And so the brothers decide to sell Joseph into slavery. Because Joseph dared to be different, he finds himself imprisoned not once but twice. Can you imagine sitting in prison for being different and for having big dreams? But Joseph never lost sight of his dreams, and he never lost faith in God's plan for him. And he eventually becomes the most powerful man in Egypt, second only to the Pharaoh, and I would argue even more powerful than a Pharaoh. He saves his family and the entire Jewish people from starvation and famine. So my point here is simple. Dare to be different and dream big, because you never know. It may be part of God's plan. I know sometimes it's really hard to see the plan that God has in store for us. And before I close this podcast, I want to ask you, in what ways are you like Joseph? And how do you dare to be different? All right. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a comment or two. You can find this podcast at soundcloud.com/Rabbi Sandra. It's also available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcast. This podcast is grant funded through the generosity of the Auerbach Foundation and the Reconstructions Rabbinical College. If you want to support the work of this podcast, you can donate through patreon.com/Rabbi Sandra or through paypal.me/Sandra J. Lawson. You can also support this podcast by following me on social media. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sandra J. Lawson and on Facebook.com/Rabbi Sandra. Also, please check out my new website, sandrajlawson.com. And if you like this podcast, and I hope you do, please share it on social media. And if you share it, please tag me. All right, until next time, peace out.